Hello class, today we're going to do lesson 7.4 on solving linear systems by multiplication first, and this is still talking about using the elimination method. Okay, so basically this lesson is our previous lesson 7.3, but with one new step. Sometimes you need to multiply first in order to use the elimination method. And that is actually our first step on our list of steps. All of these other steps right here was lesson 7.3. Okay, so if we are using the elimination method, our first step says multiply by a constant so that the coefficients of x and y are either opposites or the same. So typically what I'm looking for is the number in front of the x to either be the same or the number in front of the y to be the same. And in those two, neither the 3 and the 8 or the 3 and the 6 look the same. So what that means, what that means is that we need to multiply one of these equations or both of them to get the numbers to be the same. Well, I'm going to take a look at this 3 and the 6. I know that 3 times 2 is equal to 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this top equation and we're going to multiply everything in there by 2. And if we do that, we're going to get a new equation. So 3x times 2 is 6x. Negative 3y times 2 is negative 6y. 21 times 2 is 42. Okay, if I do this, now I have these two equations, and I can either add or subtract just like we did in lesson 7.3. So I'm taking a look and I'm noticing that the y's both have a 6 in front of them, or negative 6, and so that's what I'm looking at. So 6y plus negative 6y is 0. That means we are adding them together. So if I take 8x plus 6x, that is 14x. And as we already said, 6y plus negative 6y is 0. Negative 14 plus 42 is 28. And now how do you solve for x? Well, this is 14 times x, so divide both sides by 14. So x is 2. Now we still do need to solve for y, just like our last lesson. So I can plug this x equals 2 into any one of these now 3 equations. It really doesn't matter which one. I'm going to choose to use this top one up here that I circled. But again, you could do any of them. If I do that top one, I have 3x, which we know is 2, minus 3y equals 21. So 3 times 2 is 6, so this is 6 minus 3y equals 21. How do you undo a positive 6? You minus it. And how do you undo negative 3 times y? You divide by negative 3. So y is equal to negative 5, which is what we plug in right up here. So that is our answer, 2, negative 5. All right, letter B is just a little bit more complicated because if we look in this one, my x and y is not right lined up with each other. So if we remember from lesson 7.3, we always want to make sure we have our x's, then our y's, our equal sign, and then our constants or plain numbers. So we first need to rewrite this. And it looks like I want to move that negative 2x to the other side. How could I move it? Well, it currently is a negative 2x, so I could add it. So I'm going to rewrite this top equation now. We have 2x plus 3y equals 17. And I don't need to do anything to the bottom equation, but I am going to write it just right underneath the other one so that everything is lined up. Okay, now we're taking a look at both the x's and the y's, and none of these numbers are the same. Okay, I'm also looking at, like, could I multiply this top one by something and it will give me either a 3 for my x or a 5 for my y, and there isn't. So sometimes what we can do is we can actually multiply both equations by something. If I change this right here into a 6, so if I wanted it to be a 6x, because I noticed that 2 and 3 both go into 6. So I could take this top equation and multiply it by 3, because 2x times 3 is 6x. So then we have 3y times 3 is 9y, and 17 times 3 is 51. Now, how could I get this 3x into a 6x? If I multiply by 2. So if I do that, 5y times 2 is 10y, and 27 times 2 is 54. Okay, now I'm taking a look, do I add or subtract? Well, 6x minus 6x is 0, so I'm subtracting here. If I subtract those two, our x's cancel. Now we have 9y minus 10y is negative 1y, and 51 minus 54 is negative 3. Okay, this is negative 1 times y, so divide by negative 1. So y is equal to 3. All right, we still need to find x, just like before. I can plug it into any one of my equations. It doesn't matter which one. And just because I'm going to plug it into this one right here. All right, so we have 3x plus 5y, and we said that y was 3. If we just plug that right into y, equals 27. Okay, 5 times 3 is 15. How do you undo that 15? You can minus 15 on both sides. So now we have 3x is equal to 12. And how do you undo 3 times x? You divide by 3. So x is equal to 4, which plugging that right into our coordinate point to get our final answer. All right, we have 2 more to get through. The first thing I'm going to check is making sure my x's and y's are in a column and my plain number is in a column, and we're good to go there. Now I want to make sure that, do my x's have a number that's in common? They do not. Do my y's have a number that's in common? They do not also. I do know that, though, that 2 and negative 5 both go into a 10. So that's my number I'm going to focus on right now, is how to change the y values into a 10. So if I multiply 2y times 5, that will give me 10y. So that means we're going to take the top equation and multiply it by 5. 7 times 5 is 35x. 2y times 5 is our 10y that we wanted. And 26 times 5, we could use a calculator there, that's 130. Okay, how do I get negative 5y into a 10? Well, I could times it by 2. So we have 10x times 2 is 20x. Negative 5y times 2 is negative 10y. And negative 10 times 2 is negative 20. Okay, now your y values both have the number 10 in front of them. So now we are back to what we were doing in lesson 7.3. We either add or subtract. Well, 10y plus negative 10y is 0. So we're going to add these two together. So then we have 35x plus 20x is 55x. And we said that 10y plus negative 10y is 0. 130 plus negative 20 is 110. How do you solve for x? Divide. Right now it's 55 times x, so divide is the opposite of times. So x is equal to 2. Okay, we need to still solve for y. So you could plug this 2 into really any one of these 4 equations. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to use the top equation right here. But if you plugged it into a different one, you should get the same answer. So 7x, well, we said that x was 2. 7x plus 2y equals 26. 7 times 2 is 14. All right, how do you get rid of that 14? You minus it. We always want to undo the constant first, that plain number. All right, and then 2 times y, so how do you undo times? Divide. So y is equal to 6. So plug that 6 into our coordinate point, and we should get 2, 6. All right, our last example. The first thing I'm going to check out are my x's and y's in a column, and right now I already see that they are not. So I want to take this x and I want to move it over here. How do I get rid of 9x on one side? I have to subtract it on both sides. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this top equation as negative 9x plus 5y equals negative 8. The bottom equation, we don't have to change anything around because our x's are first and then our y's. It's really in standard form. That's what we're looking for. Is it in standard form? Okay, so now we want to take a look and see if the numbers in front of our x's are the same. They are not. Are the numbers in front of our y's the same? They are not. But if I take 5y and I multiply it by 2, then 5y times 2 is our 10y, and that's what we want. So let's take this top equation here and multiply everything by 2. Negative 9 times 2 is a negative 18x. 5y times 2 is 10y. And negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. We don't have to do anything to that bottom equation. But we'll just rewrite it here so that everything is stacked up on top of each other. So right now I'm not doing anything to this equation. I just rewrote it on the bottom. Okay, and now we're back to our lesson 7.3. Do we add or subtract these two? Well, 10y minus 10y is 0, so we are subtracting these two. So now we have negative 18x minus negative 20. Remember that minus a negative turns to a plus. So negative 18x minus negative 20x is actually 2x. 10y minus 10y is 0. And negative 16 minus a negative 10 is minus a negative turns to a plus, so we get negative 6. 2 times x, how do you undo 2 times? You divide by 2. So x is equal to negative 3. All right, so here's our coordinate point. We got the x coordinate as negative 3. Now we need to solve for the y coordinate. We can use any one of these. I'll just choose to use, let's see, which one should I use? This one right here. Let me change colors. Okay. I know it's getting a little hard to see in this video, but you should have the teacher's notes there for you too. So this is negative 20, and instead of writing x, I'm writing negative 3 plus 10y equals negative 10. All right, negative 20 times negative 3 is a positive 60, plus 10y is negative 10. Okay, how do you undo that positive 60? You subtract it. So now we have 10y is equal to negative 70. How do you undo 10 times y? You divide by 10. So y is equal to negative 7. And that negative 7 goes right in here into our coordinate point. So we get negative 3, negative 7 is our answer. Okay, that was our lesson 7.4. Thank you for watching and have a good rest.